We're doing this week Parashat Korach. So what do you think we're going to talk about Parashat Korach? About the Machloket again? Yes, we will. I mean, what else is to talk about Parashat Korach besides the Machloket? Which is Machloket is a very painful subject, so that's why I want to talk about it dafka now. The question is, are we dealing, we always know there's Machloket Hashem Shamayim. So is there a way that we can have a Machloket? A Machloket means a disagreement, separation, disagreement of opinions. Lechatchila, to begin with, as a natural thing, is that, and it's quite known, ask anybody, even Haman HaRasha knew that Am Yisrael, Yeshno Am Echad Mefuzar, Machloket was always a sign of the Jews. As they said, you have two Jews, four opinions. And if they're transgenders, they probably have like another 15 opinions because they didn't figure out yet what they are. Anyway, so it's quite common and it's a historically known fact that Am Yisrael has Machloket. By the way, what happened to your beard?
It's there.
Huh?
It's there.
Oh, it could have fooled me. It's summer. It's not fall now. It looks like it fell. Anyway, so it's very known historical fact that Jews always disagree. There's always arguments. There's always machloket and so on and so forth. Starting with the first machloket argument that we had, a disagreement that we had, recorded at least. We're not talking about Cain and Hevel. We're talking about verbal disagreement of Korach and his buddies, Korach and his gang, so-called. All the way through the machlokot between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, as it brought in the Gemara, machlokot between this Tana and the other Tana, until today that we have frictions upon frictions of people amongst the Jewish people, arguing with each other. It seems sometimes that it is a disease the Jews have to disagree with each other. So, throughout history, those arguments had a very negative impact on Jews altogether. Whether it's the time of Beit Sheni, the Second Temple, where they were fighting, and so on and so forth. Whether it's Malchut Yehuda and Malchut Israel, the kingdom of Judea and the kingdom of Israel arguing. This is terrible, terrible, terrible. And especially again today, if you go to Israel, and not only in Israel, even here in America, And I'm saying conservative, reform, Hasidim, not Hasidim, Lubavitch, Satmar, this one, that. Everybody is arguing with everybody. This yeshiva against that yeshiva. Look what happens in Israel, in Panovich, in places like this. What a war! It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, those arguments and disagreements create hatred between ourselves. Those arguments create separation. And it's if you look at it this way, it seems like a machloket is a very negative phenomena that it is quite hard to believe that a machloket could become something good, or is something good. So we all know it's bad. However, and of course we have in the center of our parasha, the certain focal point of our Parashat Korach, is the machloket of Korach when he's coming and demanding from Moshe Rabbeinu to receive a prominent place in the Israelite parliament. It really sounds like in the Israeli parliament. How come you get it? I want this seat, I don't want that seat. This one wants to be minister of this one, the other one wants to be a minister. I love the invention in Israel of minister without portfolio. It's basically a guy who gets paid and does absolutely nothing. Without portfolio. But I'm a minister. I'm a leader of a community with no community. Okay, who heard such a thing? So he comes and he says, listen, this is very unfair what you're doing in terms of leadership, your leadership, whatever you guys are doing, it's very unfair, and so on and so forth, blah, 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 the whole entire thing. Comes the Mishnah and Masechet Avot, which is a wonderful, wonderful collection of wise statements. And in Perek Chet, in Mishnah Yud Zayin, it talks about machlokot in general. And the Mishnah says the following. Kol machloket she'i l'shem shamayim, right? Any machloket that is l'shem shamayim, sofa litkayem, it's going to, and we need to see exactly what it means. It's going to be fulfilled. V'machloket she'ena l'shem shamayim, sofa lo litkayem, it's going to be unfulfilled. Now, if you sit down and you start analyzing it, you say, one second, I don't understand. If I'm arguing for the sake of heaven, so l'shem shamayim, so therefore this machloket is going to be mitkayem. What's mitkayem? Fulfilled. In other words, this machloket is going to stay here forever. And you tell me it's a good thing? And machloket she'ena l'shem shamayim, just arguments, we're arguing about politics, we're arguing about whatever else. So so therefore let's argue about other things, and then there's not going to be machloket. Or maybe we're just not understanding this. Right? But if you ever think about the statement, and people, what bothers me, or what's interesting to me, is people use statements without actually thinking or giving it 5 seconds thought about that matter. And for me, it was a mind boggler. I said, one second. Machloket, an argument that is a argument for the sake of heaven, is going to stay. But who wants machloket? It just doesn't make sense. It should be the other way around. If we are arguing on a halachic matter, right? So therefore it's l'shem shamayim, no personal involvement here. So therefore, at the end we should be buddies. No problem. And you tell me we're going to still have a machloket? It's something is wrong here. Either something is wrong with the statement, or something is wrong with the way we understand the statement. So let's look. And it says, Ezoi machloket she l'shem shamayim. Which machloket is l'shem shamayim? The Mishnah says, machloket bet Shammai u bet Hillel. The arguments and disagreement between the household of Hillel to the household of Shammai, or the students of Shammai and the students of Hillel, and which one is a machloket that is not lo l'shem shamayim? Machloket Korach v'adato. Point of a matter. Let me ask you this. First of all, let's see what is a machloket. What's the root of the machloket? I like to play with words. Machloket milishon lechalek, to divide. Divisions. I don't agree with you. I'm Sephardi, you're Ashkenazi, I don't agree with you. That's it. We're divided already. I'm this, you're that. We're arguing, we're divided. So machloket from lechalek, to divide. Now, so we already asked the question about sofa litkayem. What's the logic between sofa litkayem? And the question is that we need to ask, another question we need to ask, is regarding the example in which the Mishnah brings regarding machloket she'izna l'shem shamayim. Machloket Korach ve'adato, the disagreement of who? Korach and his gang. Excuse me, hello teacher. Korach and his gang seems to be okay. They argued with Moshe. Why is Moshe? It should say machloket Moshe and Korach ve'adato. Why machloket Korach ve'adato? Where's Moshe in this matter? Why is it mention Moshe's name? Why machloket Korach ve'adato? Before you told me Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Now you're taking another part. Something he wants to tell me something here, and I'm not listening to the story in which the Mishnah is trying to tell me. I used to read Mishnah Berurah. I used to read Pirkei Avot, like everybody does. And the older I got, the slower it took me to actually read it. Because I read something, and now I need to spend another month just thinking about it. I remember one Shabbat, many, many years ago, I don't know, like I was young and handsome. Now I'm old and very handsome. So I read the whole Mishnah, the whole Masechet Avot over one Shabbat. I'm just reading it, that's very nice, that's very nice, that's very nice, that's very nice. I was basically reading it, I wasn't learning it. So we need to understand that matter. Now let's see, let's dwell a little deeper into that. As you can see, I don't have my iPad today. But that's okay. So we need to understand exactly what is a machloket, and we already say it's to divide. It comes here to divide. The nature of our world is the world. Let's talk about the earth, needless to say, the universe. That is, if even your own world, your own self, you're a product of many different parts. And parts in Hebrew is called chelek, like lechalek, to divide. I skipped it deliberately because I want to make a point now. So in yourself, there are many chalakim, there are many parts. Well, we'll start with the fact that you have a part of your mother and a part of your father. If I'm not mistaken, 50%, right? So you're already two parts. And then you have the parts of other things in your life, and your own life constitutes of many other parts that everybody that you met throughout your life put a little dent in your life. So our world has many parts of it, and they completely different from one another, and the variety is great of all the parts that make up what we call our life. And every part of our lives not only has its own characters of it, also has its own part, its own unique part. Therefore, and this is a principle, when there is a machloket, we should not get scared right away. Why? Because this is the whole point of the world. It's the whole matter of the world. And what is it? What we call olam hachalakim, the world of parts. Even your car has many parts in it. Imagine that we'll make a car out of one part. One stance, the whole thing, like this. It would look like a Flintstone car, So the more parts, the more refined, like a clock, like a watch. If you have a fine watch, there are many moving parts in it, and that's what makes it into a work of art. Right? Imagine I have glasses. You see, I have glasses. So in those glasses are many parts. If I can make these glasses out of one thing, then they would be very bulky. I can't bend them. I can't do this. I can't do that. So the beauty of our world, that's very late. About 30 minutes late. 33 minutes late. Traffic on Great Neck. You're eating too much choresh. Doctor, you should take a gastroenterologist, over there.
I have a reason. Mine is our reason.
Everybody has a reason, but I don't really care about your reasons. Save your reasons. Someone else, not here. Anyway, so we have many parts, right? And all those parts are unique and important and so on and so forth. But this is only under one condition, the machloket is Shem Shamayim. When we have a machloket Shem Shamayim, we shouldn't get scared for or scared by. But we have to see really what does it mean now, L'Shem Shamayim, a machloket for the sake of heavens. What is it? Did you ever bother to think about the statement? What does it mean, L'Shem Shamayim? So L'Shem we know for the order of, but what's Shamayim? So Chazal tells us the Shamayim, the word Shamayim is Esh v'Mayim. The combination of two, in a way, opposites, fire and water. Fire boils the water, water extinguishes the fire. L'Shem Shamayim, look where I'm going this, where I'm taking you here. Machloket L'Shem Shamayim. So Chazal tells us that even though they are opposing forces, completely different in reality from one another, those two opposites have one source, and that's God. So you have fire and you have water, like anything else in this world, comes from one source, which is unified, which is Hashem. It's one particular source. That source includes everything and is the essence of everything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the essence of everything, and it includes everything in Him. And that's called Olam HaShamayim, the world of heavens. Therefore, a machloket Hashem Shamayim, a disagreement for the sake of what we call the sake of heaven, is in reality, every part in creation knows its source and the source of all the other parts and all the other components. And since it knows all of them and it knows that the source is equal, in other words, if you think that you are so superior because there is a heavenly particle in you, guess what? That heavenly particle also exists in this cup, also exists in the table, also exists in the toilet paper. It all comes from God. That's why once you realize that, you might take a different attitude towards taking care of your things. Everything is sanctified. Not by you, by the source of it. So realizing that, when you take this and you realize that, you come to realize that all these particles that are there, all the different particles in that, all these parts in this big puzzle are there, and they needed to create a beautiful picture, and therefore they complement one another. They complement one another. Look at this. If it wasn't for, let's say, volcanoes or the lava and the magma in the earth heating up things and the sun boiling us and the water evaporating, we won't have clouds, we won't have life. So those I hope you close the deal. No closing deal? All right. So I know it sounds like a lesson in Taoism, right? But this ultimate harmony between the yin and the yang that creates this beautiful symbol and this ongoing movement, the continuous movement of harmony, that what allows to make life in this world. And that is the same thing. If you, by the way, have harmony with your wife, true harmony with your wife, regardless of how many times you dated her before, if you're able to create harmony with your wife, you'll be able to create healthy life, and that will be your kids. However, if one is, and we'll see it, if one is overpowering the other, or one part is missing, there might be a problem here for future generation. And that's a very, very serious point to think about. Understanding the place and the necessity of the other to complete the picture. In the world, in our world, on this planet, everything is in harmony. Even disasters, so what we call disasters, are part of the overall harmony of nature. Nature corrects itself, almost like the stock market, right? But nature corrects itself, not to get over one side over the other one. And if there are too many animals eating too much grass to turn the whole place into a desert, guess what? Nature does something and all the dinosaurs disappear. And they make oil in Saudi Arabia. I don't know what happens to them. And if there's too much of one species, something else will happen. And they'll die. And remember this point, because I want to talk about it soon, Be'ezrat Hashem. So therefore, a machloket l'shem shamayim that at the end is going to fulfill is only going to come, it's only going to be fulfilled, it's only going to be maintained, it's only have a right to live, only if every part of that machloket understands his place and his job and knows to give importance to the place and the job of the opposing opinion. L'shem shamayim, if you want to understand it also, is with no ulterior motives, right? If you have unresolved issues, don't get into arguments. Go to a shrink. Go take care of all your unresolved issues. Because over there you're going to, why? Because you're going to be a destructive force. But if I'm arguing, for example, with Ari about halacha, I mean, you know it, I used to learn with your dad, right? And we used to argue, and also with Etzion, we used to argue and fight and beat each other's throat, and he's my best friend. I love him. Why? Because it wasn't a matter of a personal thing. It wasn't to prove, I wasn't here to prove that I'm better than him, than his dad, and his dad wasn't there to prove that he's better than me. We were both in together to come to the truth. Even though we are completely disagreement with one another, especially when it comes to Lubavitch stuff, but nevertheless, Baruch Hashem, his father, never mind. So, but it's l'shem shamayim. Once you start putting your 2 cents in, it's not pure anymore. You have an ulterior motive. And therefore it's not l'shem shamayim, it's for other reason, but when you're arguing for no ulterior motive, rather than just find the truth, that's l'shem shamayim. When I understand the validity of the other as much as I would like to validate myself. That's important. Look, the more you have of that lack of willingness to allow the other, or you try to overpower the other, the more disharmonious you will become. For example, there will be less argument, let's say, between a guy from, let's say, the Mir Yeshiva to the guy from the Brisk, in theory, yeah? Because they're all learning the same thing. There will be more argument between, let's say, a yeshivish person to a Mizrahi guy, Srugi, Kippah Sruga, because there are other issues in that. Greater issue between secular Jews and not secular Jews. Even greater things, arguments, believe it or not, even in Israel, that the arguments are so fierce between Orthodox, what they call Haredi, to secular are much less than there is between, let's say, Orthodox and Reform or conservatives. Because here, one wants to alienate the other. In other words, the other person does not have a right to exist, especially on the other side of the conservative Reform. Unfortunately. So there's great hatred, great animosity. Okay? And you remember now, you apply this to yourself. When you start arguing with people, who are you arguing for? What's the point of your argument? Are you trying to prove something for yourself? Are you going to go home, oh, I feel better? What's the point of your arguing? You going to validate your existence by dismantling somebody else? Well, what's the difference between you and Korach? Okay? But we can argue on Tosfot, we can argue on Pshat of Gemara, we can argue until tomorrow, we can scream and yell, but ultimately, we're best buddies. That's the difference. Now, when I understand the validity and the necessity of the other part, or the other side, that's what I'm doing tikkun olam. I'm fixing the world. However, God forbid, if the machloket is not l'shem shamayim, in other words, when every part does not understand, is not willing to understand the necessity and the importance of the other part, does not recognize his right to exist, but instead of that, thinks that he would be able to carve to himself a greater peace, a more important peace, and by doing so, completely canceling the other parts which exist in reality, and you're going to go to a war against them, even though that really truthfully, right, you also need them to what we call tikkun olam. This machloket is not going to last. Why? Because at the end of the day, those other parts, the overwhelming parts, did not allow those parts, the weak ones, to become a part of the overall general job. And they wanted the big parts for themselves. Eventually what will happen, they would collapse. And the so-called the world or the order will demand from them to get to the right size. What do I mean? Let's look at the yeshivish world today. If the yeshivish world today would not recognize the need of other type of people, for example, strong balabatim, the fact that somebody could be a very frum person wearing a blue shirt. If they're not going to allow these things to happen, and you only have to look like me, and you only have to think like me, even if you eventually erase all remnants of the other type, eventually you would be forced to come back to your original size, because the world needs those also. So if you're going to oppress people too much, they're going to jerk themselves out in a knee-jerk reaction out of you. You're going to lose them. So we need to allow people this place to grow, to survive, to develop. If I'm going to confine everybody to think like me, to dress like me, to be like me, I might come and say, okay, listen, all you do is actually like me, therefore I don't really need you. It's all about me. And you can't do that. So I'm going to tell you this. Yes, we need also the secular Jews. Why? I'll tell you very simple. So they need the right to exist, and we need to help them to become tshuva, and we need tshuva in the world, and that's the reason why. Don't tell them, don't push them away. Be welcoming. Acknowledge their existence. Acknowledge the fact that there are people just like you, and Jews just like you, just a little unfortunate. They're not as lucky as you. Acknowledge them. Bring them over. Don't reject them. I mean, after all, the conservative and reform and all the other choleras that came out of there, reconstructionists, constructionists, whatever they're doing today, right? Animalistic, humanistic, sounds like a course in psychology here. All used to be all Orthodox. Maybe because we didn't allow any kind of expansion within the boundaries. We didn't allow any expansion. Maybe we were too rigid. Maybe. I think ultimately that if we would behave accordingly and in an appropriate manner, people would flock to come back to become observant Jews. If we are not able to sell it by example, and they don't come flocking to us, I think we're doing something wrong, and we need to look at exactly what is it that we're doing wrong. We are not serving a good example. And the responsibility falls on the shoulders of all of us. And yes, we need balabatim. We need philanthropists. We need everybody. We can't spare a Jew out. As I told you before, right? We used to have this T-shirt, JSAR, Jewish Search and Rescue Unit. That's what we should do. You want a t-shirt? Want a t-shirt like that?
I like t-shirt like that.
Yeah, we had it. If you want now, you have to make it. Take your responsibility upon yourself. I'll give you the shirt. Make a whole bunch of them. You know, you can sell it to the guys. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Jewish Search and Rescue Unit. That's what we are. Okay? So we need to understand that. Now, Korach, in this case, Korach does not understand the importance of unification, of putting things together, of all the parts together. Korach doesn't understand that he is a part as well. And by the way, that's why we do all kind of crazy things, because we feel that there's no room for us, there's no place for us. We've been too much in the city. You go out to nature, you see that there is room for you as well. If there's a room for a fly, there's room for me too. But you're here, among people, that's what happens. So go outside hiking. Korach doesn't understand that. Korach doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand that all the other parts, they're not opposing, they're complementing one another and complementing him. And by complementing him, they're creating a carving room for him to exist. He doesn't understand that. Korach doesn't give, therefore, any room for Moshe. And therefore the Mishnah reminds us, that's why the Mishnah reminds us only Korach ve'adato. Moshe was not a part of this machloket. Korach and his people were part of the machloket. Needless to say that all the chevre, all the banda, all the branja, all the gang, all the guys from the hood, they came together with Korach. They didn't come because they care about what he was saying, because they saw a position of power in which they could operate like thugs. They didn't join for any unity. They just saw an opportunity. So Korach and Adato, they themselves had a machloket. Not only that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't a part of the machloket, they themselves had a machloket. They were a destructive power that would not allow anybody to exist. They didn't want to play the game. However, Moshe Rabbeinu, which was the leader of Am Yisrael, is the symbol of Am Yisrael. Moshe, in his essence, believed that we need to put all the parts together. We can't let any Jew go. Even when we had the Mekoshesh, the guy who gathered the firewood, Moshe didn't take it upon himself. He said, let me ask God. I don't know what this guy is. I can't just go ahead and kill him. What was it? What kind of thing is that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to punish Am Yisrael. He says, no, you can't do that. Take me out of the book. I'm not interested in that. Moshe Rabbeinu understand the concept of Mi Ke'amcha Yisrael. What? Goy Echad Ba'aretz. One nation. One nation, we need to be one. We can't be missing parts. Listen, it's like a plane, like an airplane. I saw today, I went to pick up my son from the airport. So I saw this huge Airbus, this like, what is it, 380? I don't know, this gigantic Airbus. This Airbus would not be airborne if one rivet is missing from the fuselage. One rivet. Come on, this plane has computers on it. It has powerful engine, 4 powerful engines, 2 deck levels, showers, bathrooms, casinos, whatever is inside there. One rivet? Yes, one rivet is not going to come out. Because that one rivet is important. That one rivet, if you go at the speed and the altitude the plane is going, it's going to rip up the whole entire fuselage, the plane crashes. Yes, one rivet. Now, what difference does it make to you if you are the computer, or you are the radar, or you are the rivet? You're all part. You're important also. It's not my job and my importance. It's rather what my contribution to the overall effort. How many pilots could there be on a plane? There's one pilot. Everything has a part. And everything has to go in a specific harmony to make sure this monster goes up in the air. It's a monster. It's a miracle. This thing, I don't know what to tell you. Every time I see a plane, it's like a kid. I hear a helicopter, I run out. I'm serious. I like to see planes. I don't know. I love airplanes. Maybe that's why I went to the Air Force. But I love airplanes. It's a miracle. A car, I understand. It rolls. You push it. It rolls. I understand. A plane, a Medusa like this flying up in the air. It's like seeing a flying elephant. It's ridiculous. If I'm going to tell you, oh my goodness, it's a flying elephant, wouldn't you run? For me, every time I see an airplane, I know how planes fly, believe me. I can give you the whole aerodynamics lesson of, no problem, I can do it. But for me, it's still together a miracle. But it's even a greater miracle that and believe me, for a rivet, a plane, and the rivet has to be perfect. If it's over the surface, below the surface, the plane is not flying. They're going to fix it. It has to be perfect. Everything is important. There's no room for selfishness here. There is the effort that we have to put in. So therefore, even when we have, my Rebbe is bigger than your Rebbe. My Rebbe does miracle. He walks on water. Oh, my Rebbe makes water into wine. My Rebbe resurrects the dead. My Rebbe took a holiday. No, I'm just kidding. You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about here? So my daddy is bigger than your daddy? We all here together to do one job. And you don't understand that, so therefore you are sabotaging. You're a terrorist. You sabotage. So when you put your own two selves in, I'm going to let this guy exist. I'm not. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to steal everybody from his shul. You're a sabotager. You're a terrorist. There's room for you. There's room. You know how many people are not religious even here in Queens? There's lack of Jews to work on. Make yourself a project. Take all the guys that nobody wants, and you make a congregation for yourself among those guys. Work hard. Why? I have to take from the stockpile of somebody else? Or Talmidim from this yeshiva, I have to steal them? Chassid guys and kids in public school that you need to take. You have to steal people. You're sabotage. You're a criminal. That's why you come near me, I'll whack you. It's not right. You understand? We are all in this together. We are all in this boat. You tell me it's my cabin, I can do whatever I want. Good, you can do whatever you want. Don't drill a hole because I'm going to throw you overboard. That's what we do. That's Korach Vadato. And Moshe Rabbeinu understands that. Moshe Rabbeinu understands that each and every one of Am Yisrael is a olam, is a world by its own. Different in his opinions, different in his conduct. And we need to understand that every Jew has a place, a specific place that is designated to him the way he is in that puzzle. And therefore, who do you think you are to try to change him or to force him to be like you? Imagine all you're going to put on a plane is engines. Instead of having 4 engines, I'm going to put 6 engines. You know what will happen to the plane? More power, right? More power. No, the plane will break. It has to be perfect. It's harmony. That's why I don't like those whole towns of everybody the same thing. You couldn't tell one from the other. I don't like it. When I was looking to move to Eretz Israel, at the beginning I was like this. I'll tell you the truth. I'll be honest with you. I wanted to move to an old Haredi town. And I realized I'm making a mistake. I'm making a crime here, maybe potential for my kids. Because they're other type of Jews. And I want my kids to understand that there are many different types of Jews and they should all be respected. Even if they're secular. What part of your body you love the most? Maybe you shouldn't answer, but But do you like your left hand more than your right hand? No? You like them both?
Yeah.
I could have fooled me. What?
Can't choose.
Can't choose? How about your legs? How about your toes? You want to give me one pinky toe? You're righty or lefty?
Alrighty.
Righty. So you can give me your right pinky toe because you really jump on your left foot when you do basketball, right? So give me even though it stinks probably, but give me your right pinky toe. I said, no, I'm not giving up anything. How about I'll carve a little piece of your flesh here? No, I want it all. So on your body, you're not willing to give up anything, and you're willing to give up on chunks of the Jewish people. you listen to what you're saying? Oh, that's not important. Tell you to. Give it to me. Give me. Oh, I see your hair here. Let me just scalp you. Put it. I like it. I always want to have scalps on my antenna of the car, like Indians. I'm driving a Mustang, so I might as well have scalps on my pony. Put it in my antenna. You're not willing to do that. You're willing to give up on Jews? What's wrong with you? Apparently, you got it all wrong. So therefore, we could see the machloket lechatchila to begin with could become a very positive thing, will cause us to rebuild and build and strengthen and develop, if it's l'shem shamayim. Why? Because of that, the world of parts, we're able to create a beautiful, harmonious picture, and so on and so forth, and everybody learns his place in life and understand that there's a place in the world for him, and therefore you're never going to feel out of place, you're never going to feel lonely, you're never going to feel that you're not important. Everybody is important. Everybody is important. And you need to understand also that when you are a part of something, you're contributing, and all of a sudden you desert it, you're a deserter. You betray the people. That's why we have to make a commitment. You make a commitment to come to learn, you come to learn. That's it, you can't do that. And if you look further for that, you might even look at the Mishnah in Masechet Yevamot, in Perek Aleph, Mishnah Dalet. It says, Afal pi she'elu osrin ve'elu materin. Even though, regarding Bet Shemat and Bet Hillel, this one says it's asur, forbidden. This one says it's allowed, you could do so. Ele poslim ve'ele machshirim. This disqualify and this make sure it's okay. Let's say it's okay. Lo nimnu Bet Shammai mi'yisei nashim Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai did not prevent themselves. The students of Shammai did not prevent themselves to marry wives from the household of the students of Bet Hillel, and vice versa. Not only that, kol ha'ta'arot ve'atmeot shayu elu metarim ve'elu metamim. Anytime they used to deal with purities and impurities, and this one says it's tahor, this one is pure, this one says no, they're talking impure. This is impure. Yeah, you're not taking maaser from the fruits appropriately. No, it's tameh. This is tahor. Still, they did not prevent themselves from taking maasot, sitting down together. This takes maaser according to his, or taharot does the taharot according to his shita, his opinion, and this one does it to him, and it was fine. It's not a problem. Live and let live. Of course, under the guidelines of halacha, which we're all bound to. But the halacha, you want it this way, he wanted that way. As long as we're doing it l'fi halacha, and for the sake of that, it's okay. I'll wrap it up. So when you take this fact, and that would emphasize even greater at what we said before that, regardless of the machlokot and the many disagreements and many disputes that Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel had, they always knew, even they were completely opposing each other, they knew that the importance of the other opinion. That's, by the way, why their Gemara records all those disagreements. The Gemara should have been like the Shulchan Aruch. The din is like this, do this, do this, do this, do that, and so on and so forth. But the reason why all those opinions, even the opinions that they're rebuked completely from its root, are recorded to show you that every point is valid, and many times if it wasn't for that opinion, we would not have come up with the halacha, with the truth the way it was. So therefore it's contributing. That opinion contributes. If, for example, I say something, and everybody agrees with me, all right, terrific. But maybe we're all wrong. And he said, no, excuse me, you're completely wrong. It's the opposite. And then we'll argue. And then I said, you know what? You're right. So therefore, his opinion is important. Even if at the end, I was able to persuade him, but still his opinion is important because I was able to sharpen my understanding of why am I doing. So those halachot, those disagreements are important. And even when he came to the practical world regarding marriage or taharot, practical world, not just esoteric topics, they knew how to overcome those arguments and to act with tremendous humbleness and to give importance and validity even to the opposing opinion. But when you are arrogant, you can't. It's like a cowboy movie. This town is not big enough for the two of us. One of you have to leave. But we can all live here. There's plenty of room. That you need to be a humble person. So if you see a person that always starts fights and arguments, either A, he's very weak, or B, or plus B, is very not humble person. Because if you are strong, you can be humble. If you are weak, everything has to be your way. Everything is a problem. You're not looking to solve problems, you're looking to create problems. And there are plenty of people like this around you. Plenty. To create a problem, everybody can. To solve a problem, to avoid hardship, heartaches, that already needs a special person. The question is, are you a person like that? And that's what we say. When we say, Elu ve'elu, divrei Elokim chayim. That and that are the words of a living God. What does it mean? As much as in the world, in the universe, right, opposing forces live together and complement each other, and by doing so, of this divine harmony, create life, or we could create life because of that. Also, when we understand the advantage of having many opinions, because of the will and the need to create something alive, like Torat Chaim, therefore the machloket becomes Divrei Elokim Chaim. This is true, and this is true. Because it's not personal. It's done completely different. Only when you reach this level, you say, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. So therefore, machloket Hashem Shamayim, it's not what we have in our mind, in our weak imagination, or when we saying. Some people think that they're doing God's work by making arguments and so on and so forth, like some kind of like a fanatic, who's immersed with craziness, like those the Taliban's on those people like that, those crazy fanatics that they cannot accept anybody else different than them. But that's not because they're strong, that's because they're weak. So we are not talking about cases like that. This is not what we're talking about. It's not the cases where we talk about that I'm trying to completely alienate and erase anybody who is different. That's the problem with many of the Muslims in the world. Look, whatever you want to do. But don't tell me what to do, right? No, I'll kill you. That's the whole, and they keep telling you this all the time. The whole intent is to turn the whole world into a Muslims. And that's why things look the way they look. That's why there's such great lack of success in the Muslim Arab world to accomplish anything, regardless of the huge amount of money that is there. Because nobody is allowed to have an opposing opinion. Why do the Jews survive? Just because of that. Just the opposite. And you know that those things would lead you to a complete destruction, whether it's on a national level or on a personal level. So when everybody understands their part and the importance of the other part, then, only then, you can reach a shlemut, completion. You need wholeness. Only when you allow other things room to grow and develop, then you have harmony. Now you want to bring Mashiach, so-called, whatever you want to call it. Accept every Jew for who he is. Help them become better. Don't try to missionarize people. If you want to influence people, work on yourself. Work on yourself. Stopping people in the airport or whatever. Oh, you want to put filling on? You want to put filling on? That doesn't make people more religious. Truthfully opening your heart. Truthfully serving an example of what does it mean to be a Ben Torah. Willing to accept that there are people who have different views than you, and understanding that their job is as important as you. That is the essence of bringing harmony to this world. bringing the world to the way it was before. Now, if you want to talk about Cain and Abel, that's exactly the example. Cain could not bear the thought that somebody is different than him. Couldn't. So therefore, what did he do? He killed them. And that's exactly what we should not do. Accept everybody. Doesn't mean you have to follow their ways. So if the guy is wearing a blue kippah and it's a sugi kippah, and you're wearing a black velvet kippah with a rim or without a rim, that's okay, so numa. But I want to see the guy who's going to give his Hasidish girl to a guy who wears a sugi kippah. Or if the guy became a Lubavitch Baal Tshuva, a diehard with a flap on the head, I want to see him getting a true Lubavitch girl from birth. Actually, LBB, Lubavitch from birth, or something like this, right? Lubavitch from birth, yeah. LFB. Sounds like a Toyota. Right? It's never going to happen. Because we stigmatize people. That thing that we do shows that we are very weak. Don't label people. Don't compartmentalize people. Oh, excuse me, where did you go to Yeshiva? Oh, okay, you went there? Okay, so you're this. Oh, you went there? Oh, you're that. That shows nothing but your own weakness. And we are still suffering from the weakness of Korach. You are important. Just as anybody else. Believe me, you're just as important as Rav Ovadia Yosef. Why? Because if it wasn't for you, what is his teaching will be? If there would be nobody here, who would he teach? Even Moshe Rabbeinu needs a nation. What's the point of a shepherd if you have no sheep? What's the point of sheep if you have no shepherd? It's all important. So Rabotai, bear this in mind. We are in almost Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. A lot of bad things start to happen because of machlokot, because of disagreements. Let's try to make a truthful, honest effort to stop with it now, right here. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashya Omer, Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu